We all know that learning a language is more than just memorizing words and grammar rules. It's about mastering the little things that make conversations flow naturally. That's why in today's episode we're diving into the world of idiomatic expressions. These are the phrases that give your English that native touch and help you sound more fluent and engaging. We'll be chatting with Victoria, Ivana, Alex, and more English heroes about their experiences with idioms. We'll share some ideas on how to incorporate them into your speech, and we'll even play a fun little game called Guess the Idiom. During this conversation, you'll actually hear us use expressions like
You know the drill.
We're on the same page. They will cut you some slack. Hernan said, take for granted.
Sometimes we actually define these idioms on the go, but sometimes we don't and just continue with the conversation. If you want to get all the meanings of all the idiomatic expressions used in this episode, I've put together this heroic English guide, Master Idiomatic Expressions. You'll actually hear a little ding when we use an idiom that's defined inside of this PDF. So go ahead and get this if you want to better absorb the information and learn about ways that you can put that into practice. This also gets you access to the transcript of the episode if you need a bit of extra help with the listening comprehension. The link is in the description box. So now, without any further ado,
today's topic is idiomatic expressions. Victoria, do you like idioms?
A lot, yeah. And I appreciated when I read your announcement yesterday that you used this phrase, you know the drill. I've been working on using it for maybe a week already because this is something that people in my organization use a lot, like, you know the drill. So thank you for choosing this theme for today.
Yeah, you know the drill. You know how this works. I don't need to explain it to you because you know the drill. That's the use of that. Excellent. How about you, Ivana? Do you like idioms?
Yeah, it's interesting, but sometimes can make it hard when you're using it a lot and when you want to remember it all, but you can't, unfortunately.
They can be challenging. Yeah, that's very true for sure. Well, we're going to talk about that today. Actually, do you have any strategies, or is it hard for you to acquire, to start using idiomatic expressions? I have a few questions that I wanted to discuss. We're also going to play a game that we've done before, and we're going to do it again today. It's been a while since we've played that game, which is a game to learn new idioms or to check if you know some of the idioms that I'm going to bring up here on the screen. Let me just drop this quick definition of idiomatic expressions. Idiomatic expressions are phrases or expressions that have a figurative meaning different from the literal interpretation of the individual words. These expressions are unique to a language or culture and often cannot be understood by translating each word individually. They convey a specific idea, sentiment, or concept that may not be apparent from the literal meaning of the words used. Idiomatic expressions are commonly used in everyday language and play a significant role in communication, adding color, emphasis, and nuance to speech and writing. So that is a good definition of what idiomatic expressions are. Let me drop a few questions here for us to continue discussing. Do you believe that mastering idiomatic expressions enhances fluency and naturalness in English conversation? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's very challenging to performance a conversation using idiomatic expressions because I am not a native speaker.
That makes sense, Alejandro. And, just learning the basic mechanics of the language, that's already challenging enough for you to even be, like just thinking about the next step, which is sounding idiomatic. And I get where you're coming from there because I think, let's just take this one step at a time and let me just be concerned or worry about adding idiomatic expressions later. Right now, I'm focused on getting the basics of how, the language works, and idiomaticity is beyond the fundamentals, in my opinion, is sounding more natural, more conversational, which is a more advanced stage in your learning. But considering the stage that you find yourself in right now, I would say just be a bit curious or be open-minded about idioms and expressions, but don't be too concerned about them now. That's maybe something for you to worry about more in the future, perhaps.
And like I noticed also that it depends largely, like when you're a little bit advanced already, it depends largely on who you speak to, whether you want to use idiomatic expressions or not. When you speak to English learners and you are not aware of their level yet, that's safer to use plain English, very straightforward. And everything changes when you speak with advanced students or native speakers because they use idiomatic expressions. And now I am more relaxed, I think. Okay, so I learn new idiomatic expressions when they come, and that's okay.
That is an interesting approach, and it's actually the one that I use now because, well, in the past, I used to have a different attitude and a different strategy for learning idioms. I used to have more of a like a collector's mindset. All right, okay, you just came across a new idiom. Let me just write it down in my idioms notebook, learn it. That was very useful. That was great, but that was a different stage. That was years ago when I was intermediate, or what you call that, like lower advanced. But after a while, you don't need to do that anymore. I call this when you reach escape velocity, which is a metaphor for like when a rocket takes off and escapes Earth gravitational pull, and now it can fly through space freely without, worrying about the gravitational pull from Earth. I believe that that also applies for English learning too. When you don't need to be constantly making an effort to develop or to maintain your vocabulary, because you've gotten to a point where you're using your English every day and you've already gotten to an advanced level where just using your English is going to guarantee that you keep developing it and maintaining it. So you don't need to do much focus, active effort into, as I said, developing or maintaining your existing vocabulary.
Yeah, but like anyways, like it's pretty hard to use these idiomatic expressions in communication when it is a professional field, because like you can sound awkward. So it's much safer to practice these expressions speaking with other students or in writing, because like you have time to think it over, and effortlessness of usage. So if you need just to be like very, very focused and serious using idiomatic expressions, it's weird. And I even read a piece of advice somewhere. If you are not confident in using a phrase, that's better not to use it at all.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Victoria. I think idiomaticity also exists in formal language. There are, when we talk about idiomatic expressions, we can find formal ones too. And especially in the world of business, you're going to find a lot of expressions being used in a formal way. Like, for example, we're on the same page on this, Victoria.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Or touch base on something, like
Yeah,
let's
it's
meet
very
and touch
common.
base. And another thing that you mentioned too, which is interesting, and I can see how people may have different perspectives on this. Like if you're not sure if you should use that an idiomatic expression, better not to use it at all. It's great to have this sense of just be careful when using idioms, because
Mhm.
yeah, like if you misuse it, it's gonna sound weird.
Yeah.
I heard though that during, like, for example, Cambridge examinations, the examiner won't really penalize you so much if you misuse an idiomatic expression, because they want to encourage you to be brave in a way and use them and learn from error. And they will cut you some slack. There's an idiom.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because okay, they recognize, okay, you're just learning. It's great that you're embracing idiomatic expressions, and we're going to allow you to make a few errors with idiomatic expressions. If you misuse them, that's all right. We're not going to penalize you. In fact, we want to encourage you to use them. So it's okay to make mistakes with idioms. But in the real world, like if you misuse an idiom, and if it's especially like a badly misused one, it can lead to, well, in the best of cases, confusion, but in the worst case scenario, like you said, something hilarious, and you may feel a bit embarrassed, or which is not really a worst case scenario, it's just part of life. Or maybe the idiom like implies something that you didn't mean, which could also be a bit funny because maybe it has, maybe, I don't know, like a sexual connotation and you didn't mean that
Oh
at all,
yeah.
but you said
That's
it and it's kind of funny. Uh,
yeah.
you'll
Like
learn
speaking.
by trying. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of that, it happened to me like 1 month ago, when I was discussing upcoming activities with a colleague of mine, and I used a word. I said something like, "Okay, so this is gonna be our prophylactics," and
Oh.
she started laughing. Saying, "Do you know what prophylactics means?" Like, and I said no, and then I looked up. Yeah,
What did you
like
mean?
it's a condom. Yeah, like
No, I
using a
know,
condom.
but
Yeah.
what did you mean to say in that
Yeah, I
situation?
wanted to say that we are going to be proactive with
Oh.
doing these actions.
All right, guys. So hope that was fun. So Victoria, I captured something you said, Victoria. You said it's better to use plain English when speaking with an English learner, or like with someone whose English is a bit lower, on he or she doesn't have so much experience with the language. What's your take on this?
Yeah, totally agree with that. If you start to use a lot of expressions and idioms with a beginner, they won't understand you and the communication will not flow. You got to be careful where or when to use idioms and expressions because not even everyone is going to understand.
You have to be aware, right? But I think us as English learners, we already have that by default because learning the language, it makes us aware of the use of idiomatic expressions. And this is something that perhaps native English speakers don't have. They will just talk to you and just throw idiomatic expression after idiomatic expression, and they just don't have the awareness of maybe the person on the other side is not really following. But I think
That's
English
true.
learners tend to do better at that. What do you guys do if you're in a conversation, you're interacting with a native English speaker, or maybe a more experienced English speaker, and they use an idiomatic expression that you just don't know? What do you do in that situation?
If I don't understand the idea, I would ask what the person mean, what does that mean? If I don't understand the situation, the context, the idea, the main idea, but otherwise, I would ask to give the meaning of that expression because I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually the best approach, I would say too. I think, well, you have to weigh in your options. Like, do I ask for clarification? Do I need to do that? Or can the conversation go on without me having that, pausing the conversation and asking for clarification? Like sometimes the continuation of the conversation may depend on your understanding of that word. If you don't get it, I would say it's essential to ask for clarification there.
So I try to paraphrase them. Sometimes I can ask, like, come again, excuse me, come again, I need to write it down. I can ask them, let me check if I understood you in the right way. And I'm trying to return what I understood, and then they can correct me.
Yeah, it's good to have some strategies for like your go-to approach when you want to ask for clarification. Something I would do, for example, is repeat the word, the expression with a questioning tone, with an asking inflection at the end. Like Hernan said, take for granted. And if I didn't get it, and if you didn't know what that meant, take for granted, or like take for granted. What do you mean? What do you mean? And another point that I wanted to make too is that going beyond this idea that okay, it's just idioms, using an idioms, which is this nice packaged collection of words that you can use with different meanings to explain, to express something with an idiom. but it's sometimes it's like more everyday, like more things like, for example, you said there, Victoria, come again. Like, can you repeat what you just said? Or something like, I made a mistake here and I said, oh, my bad. It's just that simple, something that's very simple, that when you start to incorporate these little elements into your speech, you sound more fluent, you become more fluent because you have more resources. What we're gonna do now, guys?
All right, English hero, just a quick pause here in the recording of our heroic English conversation, and just want to introduce the game we'll play. It's called Guess the Idiom. The way the game works is pretty straightforward. I will read a definition and you have to guess the idiom that matches that definition. For example, take the definition to feel unwell or slightly sick. What idiom would we say with that meaning? If we wanted to say that we feel sick and we want to use the idiom, what's that idiom? The answer is to be under the weather. Anyway, with that said, let's play Guess the Idiom now. The first definition is the following: to take attention or recognition away from someone.
Can anyone in this call guess the idiom that corresponds to this definition? If you can't, I'll give you a hint.
I think, yeah, I can give it a try. To steal the thunder.
Got it. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
it. To steal someone's thunder. Did anyone else know that expression?
I've heard that expression in French. Rachel was talking about take someone's thunder.
Yeah, to take attention or recognition away from someone. And here's an expression: Sandy stole my thunder when she announced that she was pregnant 2 days before I'd planned to tell people about my pregnancy. Can you get what the situation is there?
Yeah, usually when you have something new to share with someone, so everybody put their attention on you because you have something interesting to share, but then someone just share it first. So all the attention that you would receive go to another person,
Yeah, and you're left feeling a bit, hey, come on. I should have gotten all the attention. It was my time. Why did you do that? You stole my thunder. Great job there. So Alex, you mentioned this. It was actually Monica who was having her thunder stolen by Rachel. So let's play this. It's a minute and a half, I think.
And everybody else, finally we can start celebrating my... I'm sorry, apparently I've opened the door to the past.
Okay, Monica, come on. Okay, what you just saw.
Can I ask you just a little question? Why tonight? What? See, I've been waiting my whole life to be engaged. And unlike some people, I only plan on doing this once. So, maybe this is selfish, and I'm sorry about it, but I was kind of hoping tonight could just be about that.
Oh, honey, but it is.
No, it's not. No, now it's about you and Ross getting back together.
What?
See, you kind of stole my thunder.
Okay, ho. We did not steal your thunder because we are not getting back together.
Yeah, no. And you know what? Nobody even saw.
Yeah.
That's true. Honey, I swear, we just kissed.
It was just a kiss.
You guys kissed? What does this mean? Are you getting back together? Can I sing at your wedding? Thunder being stolen. Okay, come on, Phoebe, it's nothing.
Look,
Monica,
let's
come
not
on.
make a big deal out of this. It was a one-time thing. It doesn't even matter.
Oh, my God. I cannot believe you guys are talking about this. The problem's in the bedroom between a man and a woman. All right? Now, Chandler is doing the best he can.
Basically, everybody was stealing Monica's thunder.
Now, what's funny here is that Rachel tries to assure Monica, hey, we're not getting back together. We're not stealing your thunder. The focus still on you as a someone who's getting engaged. But then Phoebe comes along like, wow, you guys are getting back together. And she is much more enthusiastic about them than Monica, who is getting married. So There you go. All right. I have another idiom here. To make decisions as you go without a specific plan.
To go to with the flow,
To go with the
the music.
flow. Yeah, you could say that's an idiom. It definitely sounds idiomatic. But there is another one that is much more clearly an idiom because it's used metaphorically and it comes from music.
I remember something like put the chariot ahead the cows or something like that.
But that definitely doesn't mean this, though, to make
All right.
decisions as you go. So, does anyone here play an instrument?
I
I
do.
play.
You do? Alex, you do? You do too?
No, I even though I have it, but I don't play. But I remember something like that. It's like play according to the music or something like that.
I know. To play by ear.
Play by ear. That's
Yeah.
right. Why is
Yeah.
this connected to music?
Because you just improvise, or not improvise even. Yeah, so you try to do everything right, but you don't have a reference guide how to do it.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah, good. Yeah, that's it's related. My take on this, I don't play any instrument, but I imagine that if I play the guitar, for example, and I listen to a song that I want to play that song with my guitar, I have two options. One is to check the actual musical lyrics, or not the lyrics. What do you call the signs for music?
Notes. Yeah.
Notes.
Oh.
Okay, to have, the notes in front of you and you play with the notes, or you can just play it by ear, which would
Yeah.
be,
The way.
without that, as you said, Victoria, reference. So,
Mhm. But by the way, I found also what is the opposite, like in terms of music, what is the opposite to play by ear? And it is to read music. To read music
read. Yeah.
versus play by ear.
In
So
the
it makes sense, yeah,
non-metaphorical sense,
to read
absolutely.
music.
So let's play by ear and decide where to eat when we get there. Hope you guys remember that, or if the first time you're finding out about that one, learn it and start using it when the chance presents itself. I think that a lot of us are guilty of is trying to force an idiom into a situation, which I think it's all right. It's okay to embrace idioms and okay, yeah, sometimes you're gonna try to force it, but with time and as you gain more experience, you're gonna start to gain this sense of when it is just right to use the idiom and not force it. A friend of mine used to mock me, used to say, "Hey, Max, I see what you're doing there. You're trying to use that idiom, but you're forcing it." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah, it
So,
happens not only with idioms, but also with vocabulary. When you try to put a
yeah,
vocabulary
vocabulary a
inside
lot.
a
Yeah.
sentence, inside a conversation, just because people say, "Oh, you gotta do it." At the first opportunity that you see, you gotta put that word that you learn. So we kind of are forced to use those words because someone tell us that it's the best way to acquire the vocabulary or the idiom just by use the first opportunity that you have.
It's like that comes with learning something, learning a new skill. You just added a new trick to your repertoire of tricks. You just added a new trick and you want to use it in the game. Like if you're learning or if you're like a basketball player, you just learn a new trick. So you want to use it now in the game, right? And it's the same with English. An idiom or like an idiomatic expression is a new trick. Yeah, but again, it's okay to overuse it or to force it in the beginning. You are going to level up and get the necessary experience you need to use it when it's just right. So, all right, so that's the first part of the game. We'll come back to it later. For now, let's just discuss the following. What strategies have you found the most helpful in learning and incorporating idiomatic expressions into your English speech?
All right, I'm gonna share my strategy. Just expose yourself as much as you can. You can try to learn intentionally those expressions, those vocabulary, but don't force to use at the first situation that you find. It's not gonna come out naturally.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I have some thoughts on that, Alex. But I also want to hear from you, Ivana. Do you have a strategy for acquiring or learning idiomatic expressions? I want to tell you, it's okay to not have one if that's you.
I need to tell that they are still interesting. And I don't have strategies. I just let it to go naturally.
Yeah, that's totally
Intuition.
fine. That's
Yeah.
okay. And it's actually an interesting discussion to not have a strategy for it and to just go with the flow and learn by engaging in situations where English is being spoken, being exposed to it, as you said, Alex. My strategy for learning idioms is to not have a strategy at all. Before, though, it used to be different. When I was in the process of getting my head around the mechanics of the language, the basic stuff, the grammar, the basic vocabulary, the pronunciation. Yeah, I used to embrace idioms too as part of my vocabulary developing my vocabulary. I used to embrace idioms. I used to have this, as I call it, collector's mindset, meaning I was really enthusiastic to add a new idiom to my active vocabulary. I used to have this notebook with idiomatic expressions, and I was happy to add a new one. I used to see that as like collecting idioms, and it was fun. It was like a game. It felt like a game, which led to the situation we discussed before, forcing idioms into a situation when the idiom you could see, okay, it could be used, but it feels forced. In the beginning, I didn't have that ability to sense that it was being forced. Later, you gain that sense as you progress with your language skills in general.
It's like phrasal verbs, idioms, phrasal verbs, vocabulary. It's all the
Yeah.
same. It's just another way to convey your message.
How do you feel when you successfully use an idiomatic expression in conversation with someone else? Save that thought, and we're gonna continue the conversation with this question, the second one, but in the main group. How do you feel when you successfully use an idiomatic expression in conversation with a native speaker or with someone with a more experienced English speaker? And I told you, Alex, because Alex was going to develop his answer in the breakout room, but I told him, save that thought, Alex, save that thought. And that's something that we say when, okay, keep thinking about that. Let me do something else and then tell me more about it. It really answers this because when I can successfully use a resource like that, it feels good because it's a resource. It's something that I can use to explain something or to communicate an idea. If I didn't know that expression, save that thought, I don't know what I would have said. I would say, Alex, and a whole explanation. Alex, please don't say that now. Say it when we come back. And it will be like a more
Yeah, save that thought. It's much better.
So that is one of the advantages, I guess, of this, you having these expressions, things at your disposal. Alex, I told you to save that thought, but now it's going to be your time to explain what you wanted to say or to just let us know your thoughts on that.
I feel amazed when I use certain expression, words, vocabulary that I was trying to put in a sentence that I was learning before, and I just find the right moment to use that. That's amazing because it's challenge to use something different that you are not used to, It's challenge, but once that you do it in a right situation, it's amazing.
Now, Victoria and Alejandro, I already explained that to you in our record room in the beginning. So you're not allowed to answer this. You know what that is. Anyone else knows what escape velocity is? No one? So if you're Elon Musk and you are into launching rockets into space, you would know that when a rocket or when something leaves Earth, it escapes its gravitational pull. The gravitation is no longer acting on it. Gravity, I mean. And what happens when object like a rocket escapes Earth's gravitational pull, what happens is that it now can float freely in space. It's no longer attracted by the gravity. Now, the same happens with your English when you enter a stage in your English learning journey where you don't need to focus so much on vocabulary growth or maintaining the vocabulary you already know. When you're in this new stage, you've reached this escape velocity, and now you don't depend so much on activities to help you grow your vocabulary. You just go through life engaging in it with English in conversation or being exposed to it. And just by being in that state, you are gonna learn new vocabulary, new expressions. You keep developing your English, even if you're not so focused on learning. You're just going with the flow and you're just learning and acquiring new things just by being active as an English speaker. It's okay to not have a strategy, especially if you're in the later stages of your learning. If you're in the beginning, you may need to engage in more active learning. Let's just do something really quick here. We're going to do a rapid fire of like these idioms and trying to guess what they mean. Let's do that because I have 3 or 4 more slides and I didn't just not use them. So if you guys have 5 more minutes, we can play this because I know you guys are having fun. So to bravely face a difficult situation. So
Bite the bullet.
bite the bullet.
Bite the bullet.
How do you
Wow.
guess that, Alex? That's impressive. Bite the bullet. There you go. So I didn't want to attend the family gathering, but I had to bite the bullet and go. All right, there you go. Bite the bullet. Next, to accidentally reveal a secret.
I know.
Something related with cat.
Okay, Victoria?
Yeah, I have another one, Alex. Yeah, it's just
Spill?
Spill the
beans.
beans.
the
Spill
beans.
the beans.
Yeah, spill the beans.
Yeah, Irena. How about the one with the cat?
To let out cat of the bag.
To let the cat out of the bag. That was actually this. But spill the beans is also as common as let the cat out of the bag. She let the cat out of the bag about this surprise party. Yeah, that's a great example. All right, there you go. Perfect. Let's see if we have another one. To act too soon or to make a decision prematurely.
Maybe don't be such a baby or something like that.
Doesn't have the word baby in it. It has the word gun. And it comes from athletics, specifically running. Victoria, you look like you have it on the tip of your tongue.
No, cannot come up with anything.
It's to jump the gun.
Okay.
You jumped the gun by announcing the project before it was approved. Because have you ever seen in a race, like when someone is starting a race and they announce the beginning of the race with a gunshot. But if the runner starts running sooner than the gunshot, he's disqualified because he's starting with an advantage. And when they do that, it's called they're jumping the gun. They're starting the race before the gunshot, which signals the beginning of the race. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking
Is it-
about a different expression before you mentioned running, and it was to get ahead of myself.
Okay, yeah. But getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah, that's a great idiomatic expression as well. Let's do probably the last one. To make a bad situation even more unpleasant. Contains the word insult.
No,
Nothing to add insult to injury.
I didn't know it.
Didn't know that one?
Me neither.
This is the first time that I'm actually thinking about the situation where this may come from. Just by looking at the image here, it's like someone gets hurt and then someone is laughing at them for getting hurt. So now you're feeling the pain in your body and also feeling the, say, humiliation of someone laughing at you. So it's adding insult to injury. Like they're insulting you for getting hurt. Remember that happening to me once. I twisted my ankle in a basketball game and someone was saying like, hey, stop being a girl. And everyone started laughing.
All right, I hope that you enjoyed that heroic English conversation where we explored idiomatic expressions. Remember, you can download the PDF guide that goes along this podcast episode. You're going to find all the definitions there, the definitions of all the idiomatic expressions that we used incidentally, meaning they just arise in the conversation organically, and also the idiomatic expressions that we talked about directly, like the ones from the game Guess the Idiom. If you enjoyed this conversation and this podcast, subscribe on YouTube and also hit like on the video on YouTube. That helps tremendously. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Deezer, or any of the other major podcast platforms that this podcast goes out on, leave us a 5-star review. That is also very helpful, and it benefits the podcast, and it helps it, reach more people like you. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and as always, keep learning, keep growing, keep living your English, and until next time.